Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. The Bold and the Beautiful spoilers. Cassandra Creech returns as Dr. Grace Buckingham Taylor's second opinion. The Bold and the Beautiful B&B. Spoilers reveal that a familiar face is headed back to the CBS soap. Cassandra Creech will reprise her role as Dr. Grace Buckingham during the week of September 30 October 4. And there's a good reason why. After Taylor Hayes, Rebecca Budig regains consciousness following her collapse in the Forrester salon. Ridge Forrester, Thorsten Kaye, will interrogate her about what's going on. Since Taylor has been hinting about how life is short and precious, Ridge may think back to those clues and worry she's sick. Taylor will eventually confess that she's dying and leave Ridge thrown for a loop. Ridge will insist that can't be right, but Taylor will offer updates on her doctor's visit in Europe and how she was given a heart failure diagnosis. Since Ridge just won't want to believe that's true, he'll push Taylor to get a second opinion. Taylor won't see the point of letting another doctor tell her that she's fading fast, but Ridge will feel like maybe there's still hope for her future. Of course, Taylor recently turned to Lee Finnegan, Naomi Matsuda, for a list of cardiologist recommendations. It honestly doesn't make sense for Taylor to push back on Ridge's second opinion idea, but it doesn't matter since he'll get through to her anyway. B&B fans will recall that Dr. Grace Buckingham is Paris Buckingham, Diamond White, and Zoe Buckingham's, Kiara Barnes, mother, but she'll be back in doctor mode this time around. That's not all that surprising since the last time Dr. Buckingham was seen on the show, she was serving as Katie Logan's Heather Tom, doctor as well. In December 2022, Dr. Buckingham told Katie she was a walking miracle since she showed no signs of heart transplant rejection. Will Dr. Buckingham have some good news for Taylor too? Could Taylor have been misdiagnosed and actually have some hope after all? The Bold and the Beautiful spoilers hint that Taylor will have her doubts about the diagnosis Dr. Buckingham offers, so she may not know what to believe anymore. Our predictions point to some stunning developments in Taylor's medical case, so stay tuned. The buzzing city of Los Angeles hummed under a brilliant sunlit sky, and within the lavish Forrester Creations office, tensions were at an all-time high. The world of fashion might have appeared glamorous from the outside, but behind closed doors, it was a place of secrets, manipulations, and unexpected arrivals. Dr. Grace Buckingham was no stranger to such upheavals. When she returned to the city, she was determined to make her presence felt. After all, she had once been involved in enough drama to shake up the Forresters and Logans. And now, with her return, it seemed the stakes were even higher. Cassandra Creech reprised her role as the sharp, no-nonsense Dr. Grace Buckingham. A woman of intellect and grit, she had dealt with the consequences of her daughter Paris' romantic entanglements, but now she was back for another reason. This time, she wasn't just here for family. She was stepping into a medical battlefield that no one had anticipated. Taylor Hayes, the renowned psychiatrist, had been struggling lately. Something wasn't right. Her professional world had become entwined with her personal life, as it so often did in Los Angeles. Ridge Forrester, Brooke Logan, and Steffi were all dealing with emotional fallout from their tangled love lives. And as Taylor helped navigate their psychological struggles, she found herself becoming overwhelmed by an unusual fatigue that no amount of rest seemed to shake off. It was Steffi who first noticed it. Her mother was losing her usual sharpness, her energy dipping in a way that made Steffi worry. At first, she thought it was the emotional weight of the constant tug-of-war between Ridge and Brooke, or perhaps the mental toll of keeping her children grounded amidst all the drama. But as time went on, Steffi saw the toll was deeper than stress. "Mom, you need to see someone," Steffi urged one afternoon in Taylor's office, her voice edged with concern. "You're not yourself, and I don't want to wait until it's too late." Taylor sighed, brushing off her daughter's concerns, but inside she knew Steffi was right. There was something deeper happening within her, something that she couldn't explain. She finally agreed to get a second opinion, just to ease her daughter's mind. When Taylor mentioned seeking out a specialist, Steffi immediately thought of Dr. Grace Buckingham. Though Grace was not a psychiatrist, her reputation as a brilliant physician who could handle the most complex medical mysteries preceded her. Plus, the Buckinghams had always had a connection to the Forresters. It felt right. So the call was made. Grace was back in town, and as soon as Taylor reached out, Grace didn't hesitate. She made her way to Taylor's office, curious about the situation, but also eager to establish herself once again in a city that had seen its fair share of family entanglements. Walking into Forrester Creations, Grace felt the tension in the air immediately. It was as if the walls of the building itself held on to the secrets of the people who worked within it. But that wasn't her concern. Right now, her focus was on Taylor. "Dr. Hayes," Grace greeted as she entered the room, her tone professional but warm. "I hear you need a second opinion." Taylor smiled faintly, trying to hide the exhaustion that had become all too familiar. "Grace, thank you for coming. I don't know what's going on, but I'm not feeling like myself lately." Grace took her time, observing Taylor carefully before diving into the medical history she had prepared. She had already done her homework. "Let's start from the beginning," she said, pulling out a tablet with Taylor's recent health records. "When did you start noticing these symptoms?" Taylor recounted the slow onset of fatigue, the headaches, the occasional dizzy spells. It was nothing overt, but it was persistent. Grace listened intently, jotting down notes, her eyes narrowing in thought. "I'll run a few tests, Taylor. Nothing too invasive, but I want to get a clear picture of what we're dealing with. It might be something as simple as burnout, or there could be an underlying condition we haven't yet seen." As the tests were run and time passed, Grace's demeanor remained calm and collected, but behind her eyes there was a flicker of concern. She had seen cases like this before, cases where seemingly small symptoms led to more serious discoveries. Several days later, Grace returned with the results. Taylor and Steffi sat across from her, the anticipation in the air thick enough to cut with a knife. Grace took a deep breath before speaking. "The good news is," Grace began, "there's nothing immediately life-threatening. Your blood work is clear, and your scans show no signs of any major issues. However, there are a few abnormalities that concern me." Steffi's heart sank. "What kind of abnormalities?" Grace flipped her tablet around, showing the results on screen. "There are some hormonal imbalances and potential indicators of a rare autoimmune condition. It's not something we can diagnose right away. I'd like to do more tests, and I've reached out to a few specialists who can assist." Taylor listened quietly, her mind processing the information. She had been prepared for bad news, but the uncertainty of what was to come unnerved her. "I want to assure you, Taylor, that whatever this is, we'll get to the bottom of it," Grace said firmly. "But in the meantime, I suggest you take a step back. You've been running yourself ragged, and until we know more, it's important that you give your body and mind the rest they need." Steffi reached for her mother's hand, her eyes brimming with concern but also hope. "We'll get through this together." Grace stood up, her presence commanding as ever. "I'll be in touch as soon as we have more information. But remember, Taylor, you're not alone in this." As Grace Buckingham left the room, Taylor sat in stunned silence, her mind racing. For the first time in a long while, she felt uncertain about her future. But with Grace on her side, she knew she had a fighting chance to find out what was really happening. It was a new chapter in her life, one she hadn't anticipated, but perhaps, with the right people around her, she could face it head-on. Dr. Grace Buckingham had returned, and this time, her role in the lives of the Forresters and Logans was just beginning.